The grooming scandal was an utter disgrace, and the perpetrators were finally brought to justice way longer than they should have been, and they were imprisoned for their disgusting actions. And what happened there was a repulsive failure by our justice system to bring these people to account. However, I am asking you, because you brand all Muslims with the same way that you brand the people that committed the grooming gang scandal. You brand all Muslims the same way, but you have no idea how many Muslims there are. There are nearly 2 billion Muslims in this world. And what you're doing when you talk about them as a community of people
is you're tarring all 2 billion Muslims.
You're tarring all 2 billion. All 2 billion. You are tarring. Let me finish. You are tarring all 2 billion people with the same brush of being killers and rapists and so on. To which I say to you, that is the purest personification of vile bigotry, racism, and Islamophobia. Why don't you focus on people of all religions?
They follow a book that calls
crimes.
for the murder of Jews, Christians, Hindus, and infidels just because we don't bow down to their stupid rock, Piers Morgan. We don't do that in Christianity. In Christianity, if you want to be an atheist, if you want to worship a cow, if you want to worship a table, you're allowed to do that without getting killed. Because right now in Egypt, a 30-year-old man is being held in prison because he's about to get murdered by the government of Egypt because he is no longer a Muslim. He is now a Christian.
Piers, it's just not true, Piers. If you don't mind, can I say something here, Piers? Piers, if you don't mind, can I say...
Yes, I'll bring in Sami Hamdi to respond, yeah.
Piers, I just want to... So she keeps talking about the idea... She keeps talking about this idea of rapists and the like. Piers, I went to the website of the Office for National Statistics and the Bureau of Justice of the Americans. And here you can see, these are all the victims saying who their perpetrators are. And here they say that it's people that they know, it's their family members, it's their friends, it's their acquaintances. Only this small number over here is done by strangers or what she calls grooming gangs. You can see the overwhelming majority are done by those that they know or those or their relatives. Nobody says this is white Christian sexual epidemic. If you look at the population, she says that they're being taken over. This is the population of Muslims in the UK and in the US. In the US, 1.1%, in the UK, 6%. Tell me, where is the takeover that's taking place here? Piers, when you look at the crimes that are committed against Brits, and I'm a Brit, I'm born and raised here, against our sisters and our daughters and the like, here are the crimes committed by Jimmy Savile and Rolf Harris. Nobody says this is white Christian rape. No one says this is a white Christian problem. Everybody says crime has no faith and it has no race. This was committed by vile individuals and justice should be delivered. Piers, when you look at the Office of National Statistics and you see the number of people incarcerated in the UK, you can see that they are overwhelmingly white. But nobody says that this country has a white criminal problem. No one says that this is a Christian problem. Everybody says this is a criminal problem by vile people because crime has no faith and crime has no race. Piers, when you look at the mass shootings in America that kill students and kill their children, this is the data from the Bureau of Justice in America. This is by white shooters, this is by ethnic minorities. No one says that in America they have a white Christian shooting problem because they know crime has no faith, they know crime has no race, and they know that it is individuals who need to be brought to justice. The reality
well, let me ask you this question, Sami Hamdi. Let me ask you, Sami Hamdi. Sami Hamdi, I understand the point you're making. It doesn't in any way, it doesn't in any way excuse the appalling way that the grooming gang scandal was handled, or the failure of our justice system to bring those perpetrators who were almost exclusively in that scandal case. They were British Pakistani men. It doesn't excuse any of that, but you make a valid point about the totality of statistics. My question for Sami Hamdi is about Valentina Gomez. Would you have allowed her into the UK?
Piers, part of me believes that it would have been good for Valentina to come and see the real Britain. The Britain that belongs to the family that I am in. The English blood that runs through my kids from Stenning, Brighton. It would have been good for her to come and meet the wonderful giants of Britain who are Muslim, like Timothy Winter in Cambridge, like Paul Williams, like Paul Keeler, like Suhail Hanif. It would have been good for her to see the realities of what Britain is like and how Muslims live in Britain and contribute to society. Because when Tucker Carlson finally saw it, instead of regurgitating the hate that he was doing in 2001, Tucker Carlson came out and said, I was wrong and I didn't know that Muslims love Jesus too and they believe in the second coming. When Candace finally got to see the reality, she came out and said that I was disgusted with myself for not looking in further. I believe Valentina is still young. She's in the early stages of what Tucker Carlson was. I'm asking her, skip the years that it takes to figure it out. Go and see what the world looks like. Go and see the reality, because your message of hate didn't work. Abdul Sayed, the Senate candidate for Michigan, a right-winger, turned up in his rally and told him, I'm here as a right-winger. Abdul Sayed put his hand on his heart and said that I am so glad you're here. I'm so glad we can talk with one another. I'm so glad that we're standing together. Marjorie Taylor Greene says this is no longer a battle between left and right. This is a battle for America first. And the final point is, I'll finish on this. Valentina's brother serves in US forces. That Valentina, instead of focusing on the 1% of American Muslims who aren't the problem in America, perhaps she should focus on the 42 million Americans living on SNAP who can't afford basic groceries. She should focus on the servicemen who return to America and sit in the freezing cold on Magnificent Mile in Chicago. She should focus on those ordinary Americans going bankrupt as a result of medical bills. There's a reason she was rejected in Texas, because no one resonates with that hate. There's a reason why she was rejected in Texas, because no one buys the hate anymore. What wins in America, what wins in the UK, the reason reform lost in Gorton and Denton is because Zach Polanski came with a message of hope. In America, Mamdani came with a message of hope. And even Donald Trump is, even Donald Trump, before the mess with Iran, even Donald Trump, when he won the election, declared that he had established the biggest coalition of Muslims and Arab Americans.
We've run out of time. I just want to say,
hope wins the race, not hate.
Sami Hamdi, that's enough, please. I would simply say to Valentina Gomez that sometimes when people show themselves, you should believe them when they show you. And your reaction to the English-born Home Secretary of my country, Shabana Mahmood, who's a diligent, hard-working, intelligent, decent person born in Birmingham in the Midlands of my country. Your reaction to her, calling her a dirty Pakistani Muslim, was one of the most disgusting things I've seen or heard in a very long time, and it showed you for what you are. You are a disgusting, Islamophobic bigot that hates 2 billion people on this planet simply because of their religion.
They hate me too.
And shame on you.
They hate people like me. They hate people like you. They hate people like your wife.
We don't hate you.
You're only back.
I promise we don't hate you.
You're only back on this program. You're only back on this program because you were banned from my country. I say good on you, Home Secretary.
Because my message,
you're a more decent person
than
Valentina Gomez could ever dream of being.
I wouldn't be
I'm going to leave it there. Thank you both very much for your contributions.